Hello, today my guest is Karen Haller, a leading expert in applied colour psychology and behavioural design, and also author of The Little Book of Colour. Her work is all about revealing the hidden power of colour, not just as something visual, but as something deeply emotional, cultural, and biological. In this episode, Karen shares how colour affects our behaviour, mood, and sense of self. We talk about how our preferences are shaped by memory and meaning, why so many so-called neutral spaces leave us feeling flat, and how colour can reconnect us to who we really are. She also tells the story of how she left the corporate world to follow her fascination with colour, and what she's learned from a career spent helping people and brands bring soul back into space. Whether you're a designer, a creative, or just someone who's ever been moved by a room, this one's full of insight and might just change the way you see the world around you. Let's get into it. So, Karen.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you again. It's been a little while. Was your book launch?
Since the book launch, exactly.
Yeah.
Time goes very fast.
It does.
But yeah, I mean, again, this is one which I've been really looking forward to. I mean, as with all sort of busy people, trying to tie you down for a date and stuff like that, and you just come out of 3 days of you wear many hats, which I know we'll sort of get into here, but just to start, I also think it's quite a nice way just to kick things off, to hear from yourself, really, sort of who you are, what you do, and
so I'm Karen Haller. Probably can hear from my accent. I'm originally from Australia. I'm originally from Sydney, but I've been living in the UK now for over 20 years. It never goes away.
Have you started flattening the... Do you find now, because I find when people then go back to Australia, they're like, you're a POM now?
Yeah, well, when I go back, they say I've got inflections of an English accent, and then when I come back, they say it's stronger, my Australian accent. I always say,
it's funny how that happens despite any, it's just subconscious.
I go home to top it up.
Go
back, top it up, and then come back and it's just as strong again.
Your annual dose.
Yes, annual dose. Yeah. So I run a behavioural design consultancy, and the tool that I use is applied colour and design psychology. But my main thing is about us as human beings, human-centered design, and how we connect to nature to bring out our true human nature, and how to use colour and design to influence positive behaviours and positive change, because I feel that that's really important. Otherwise, we can design really beautiful spaces, we can create beautiful products. I mean, there's nothing that doesn't have colour on it, right? But we can do all of that, and it could look aesthetically pretty, but it might not be performing the right function, or it might not be eliciting the right behaviours or the right response that we're wanting. So that's to the level that I go to. Yeah. Oh, and I also have my book, The Little Book of Colour.
Yeah, of course, which is how we met.
Yeah, it's how we met.
I bought your book, and I think every other line is highlighted with notes. Go, read this, learn more about this, and it's so good. And it's it's a penguin.
It's penguin
as well, which
published,
is big.
Yeah, and it's out in 14 languages.
Yeah.
Because my big audacious goal was to get the world to fall back in love with colour again, but I had no idea how to do that. And when Penguin approached me, I thought, oh great. So it's out in English, and when they saying to, even before the first edit, I was getting deals were coming in, which just blew me away.
That's so good.
And it was only until the fourth language, which I remember was Italian, I just thought, oh my God, this is real. Like this is really
There's
happening.
a pinch me moment as well, right? Because it's obviously a passion project, like me with mine. Yeah. No one just goes, oh, I've got to write. This has to get out there. This is my core essence.
Yes, exactly, because that's in a way my legacy. That's what if I leave this earth tomorrow, I've left something that I know that has longevity, and that
your message stays, right?
Yes, yeah. And but the message isn't. It is my message, but really, what I want is for people to really connect within and really go deep inside, and then connect to who they are, because then that just has a ripple effect. Do you know what I mean? So my book is. Colour is the vehicle, my book is the vehicle, but it's really up to the individual to do the work and to connect. Because when they connect back to themselves, they are then connecting back to nature. And then to me, when, there's not a day that doesn't go past that I don't get an email. 5 years later, I'm still getting emails, I'm still getting DMs in Instagram saying what a profound effect the book has had on them. But I said, but it's you that's doing the work. You know, it's congratulations to you for you doing, because you could have just read it and put it aside, but they are now willing to
This is what I love about you, because actually I remember the first time that we spoke about your book. I remember I was like a little fanboy. I was like, I read your book and it was so good. And you were like, yeah, but how did it work? You know, you're so conscientious about what it's done for them, which is a really beautiful thing. There's no ego on you about it. No. It's just like, it's lovely.
Well, the ego is that I'm excited and I'm thrilled and I love getting them. But really, when I put that aside, that first moment aside, it's really about being in service to them, isn't it? Because all the work that we do is in service. So that's why I also then started my colour and design courses for designers, architects, you know, anyone that works in colour.
Lighting guys.
Lighting.
Definitely see you there.
Because I really wanted them to be able to have this skill and this this tool to be able to then be of even better service to their clients, because that's the ripple effect, you know, that's how it all gets out into the world. If it stays with me, then, you know, and I can only do so much, but if it goes out to more people, then imagine the impact that they will have as well. So it's about that's my big audacious goal, is to get all that out into the world in all these different areas.
What was the thing that was there like an affirming moment where you suddenly had the veil dropped and you went, colour has a like, how did you end up getting so passionate about this? What was the kind of journey for?
I worked in IT as a project manager, business analyst for many, many years. And I used that as a way to travel around the world, and because it was very well paid. But at night, it didn't satisfy me at all, right? So on my analytical side of my brain, yes, but it didn't fulfill me. And I had studied fashion design, but it's such a ruthless, cutthroat industry that I didn't want to be in it. So then I thought, oh, it's millinery, you know, making hats. And I still remember, and it's actually is in the book, that I was made this felt duck egg blue like felt hat, and I put on these beautiful chocolate brown ribbons and feathers, and just out of my mouth in the class, I just went, oh my God, it's colour. And the teacher and everyone went, what do you mean? I went, I don't know.
Just there was like a current-shaped hole in the walls you left out the buildings.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was, and
golden ticket.
Yeah. And then I went and studied colour and design for a year. Again, it was a part-time course, was I was still in IT. And I just had so many questions. So that was like my first epiphany moment, right? Not having a clue what it meant. And I could have done nothing with it. But I guess I went on to learn colour and design at college. And then I kept on asking the teachers so many questions. You know, I am the annoying student that asks 1,000 questions. And
same as me. I met my wife on a cookery course, and the first class, I was so excited to be on it because I wanted to be a chef, and it's unfinished business, and I was like the sort of Hermione Granger of the class, isn't it? Yeah, it's that. But literally, out of pure passion, I was just it was like a 2-year-old, you know, when they start entering the like why phase.
Yes, why? I am still in that phase.
Like, she was like, this guy is nuts. He's a penis. Yeah, and now we're married, so poor thing.
Married, yes, and now it's stop. Why? I just had loads and loads of questions. Now, they couldn't answer them. And it wasn't because, well, I know now that because what I was asking was questions to do with colour psychology, but that wasn't their area of expertise. So, but I then went on to every workshop, everything I could possibly find about colour, and I still had the same questions. And no one could answer them. And it wasn't until I came to the UK doing my upteenth, you know, every time I saw a colour workshop or anything, I was there. And then this teacher, she could answer all my questions. And I drove her nuts for the whole weekend. And I went, oh my God, this is it. What I've been looking for. And that's my second epiphany moment.
What was she teaching?
Colour psychology.
Yeah.
So, and that's when I went, this is it. I found it. So it was colour psychology, colour harmony, but it was all in line with nature. And even though she talked about nature, I've taken it much further. So I've taken her core principles and her core foundation. So colour design, psychology and colour harmony. And then I've for the last almost 20 years, I've taken that core and then I've built all my processes, all my frameworks, and I've gone, much deeper into a lot of the areas. So I've taken, because that's what we do, right? We don't do anything in isolation. We always build on those before us. And the idea is that with the work that I've done, someone will then build on what I've done. Do you know what I mean? Because that's how we evolve.
Yeah, it was handing the baton over, right? I mean, that's the same with scientific exploration.
Yeah. And with the scientists, they would have come to a conclusion 20 years ago on something. Someone will now take that and will build on that, or maybe even now dispute it, because scientists, they never say trust the science. They are the most skeptical. They don't believe anything they see, which is in a way good, because then there's no confirmation bias. And so they will pick everything apart.
Tear it to shreds.
Yeah, which is what I
proof.
do. And I'm always trying to find the gap. I'm always trying to find the hole, because I want things to be better. And so if someone finds a gap or a hole in anything I do, it's great. Tell me where it is.
Yeah, it's the same as me as well. Every
I want it to be
presentation, I'm
better.
like, please, after this, come up to me and tell me anything you disagree with.
Yeah.
Or any other, information or anything. It's where there's something in nature called catharsis, which is when your bone breaks, it grows back stronger. So I'm always asking people to break my bones. Just like, come have an attack. Tell me what's going on, and that's where I find new doors.
You don't take it personally.
Yeah.
And it's about making it better for others. It's not about it being about you, which is it's a great place to remain objective. But still
it keeps
care.
you off a high horse as well, right? If you're there going, no, it's like, no, tell me, and we'll work on this together. And it's like, this is a collective. What is it about colour why is colour so powerful?
I believe there's many things, but just on one aspect of it is that colour to me is a form of self-expression. And we are, I think on the whole, not everybody, but the majority of people are so scared to show up who they are, really want to fit in, because this is human nature. We want to fit in, we want to belong, we want to be accepted, and ultimately we want to be loved, right? And we still have this sense, even from way back when we lived in clans, when we lived in tribes, if you weren't accepted or you didn't belong or you were cast out, that did mean death. Because then you were isolated and you didn't have the security, the protection of your tribe. You don't have food, and that's
well, anyone that's ever done sort of a decent stint of therapy learns that ultimately, as a child, you work out your position in your tribe, i.e. your family.
Yep.
And you adapt, and they become your fundamental survival characteristics.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why you get elder child, middle child, younger child syndrome, because they play on the flutter your eyelashes if you're the youngest, or if you're the middle, just hide in plain sight. If you're the eldest, you're the loud, dominating, because you've also had the attention, but then you have to learn not to, so it's...
that's interesting, because my brother's the quiet one, I'm the loud one.
Really?
I was the one that was...
It's not a hard and fast rule,
I was
for
always
sure,
the one that was, come on, Eric, let's come and do this, and I would, And
But there's loads of dynamics, because then it's like, what's your mother like? What's your grandfather like? What's your,
Of course.
And it's the character traits, but you end up, your identity becomes, core survival,
and it's
to not be ostracized.
And so you work out strategies and tactics in order to fit in and belong, and it's what we then make it mean. So if someone, like as a kid, someone would always say to me, don't be childish, don't behave that way. Then you think, oh, I can't do that.
Or someone shouts at you when you do that, you go, that
And
behaviour equals pain
and
Through
wrong,
emotional
and so
pain or-
you push it down and you hide it, and we're trying to act in a way that we're acceptable. Some point in our life, we realise that we're not who we are, but we're still trying to adapt, because not only are we trying to, it's no longer just the family, it's our workplace, it's our friends, it's our school, it's society.
So I try and practice what I've learned from you as well, a little bit, where I'm like, okay, let's dig into, because I find really fascinating thing like the Lucia colour test and different colour psychology facts. London Blackfriars Bridge was painted green, and the suicide rates dropped by about 20% from that bridge, and like all these facts which I hear.
Yeah, but then what's the study behind that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've got the reference in my book. I read the paper and I was like, okay, and it was actually. So I think it's in
Bill Browning's Nature Inside, Bill and
Right.
Katie O'Rion's.
Yeah.
But it was this idea that wavelengths have an emotional and physical effect on us. But I was at a school where I had to wear a uniform every day, and it was a very bland blue uniform, which meant that every single person was told, no, you dress like one organism,
Yes.
don't have any self-expression. That would be
No.
ridiculous, and you get in trouble for self-expression.
Yep.
And there's an element of like, I
I was
actually,
in
as I've
trouble
grown up,
every day for self-expression.
I bet you were. I bet you
I
were.
was either I would walk into the class and they say, Karen, sit at the front. I said, I haven't even said anything
No,
yet.
I was that guy. I was so badly
And
behaved.
they said, that's to stop you. I was like,
I also love the fact that later on in your life you went, it's colour, whereas I bet all your teachers, you'd be turning up in sort of like bright pink or bright orange or bright yellow or green, and it would be, oh my God, it's colour. And
Well,
you say it, Ted, you say it,
yeah,
Ted, you're like, oh my God, it's colour.
However, though, in my IT days, I wore a lot of black because I was, in one particular job, I was managing 30 developers and they were all men. If I come bouncing in, hi guys,
Yeah,
dressed
yeah.
in a bright colour, they would not take me seriously. Or that was my perception. So my perception was that if I looked serious and, it drained the colour out of my face. I tell you
bet.
what, oh my God.
No wonder you were looking for colour on the side. I mean,
So,
quite literally.
yeah. And I wanted them to take me seriously. But I also didn't want to show myself at work, and I wanted to hide, and so black is a colour that you don't get seen, that you can hide behind, and that it doesn't ask anything of you. Kind of, it drained. I mean, it drained me emotionally, but it didn't reflect who I was and didn't show who I was, and I wanted to keep that at work. And then whenever I would go out with them, they'd say to me, you are as mad as a box of frogs. Like they said, why aren't you like that at work? And I explained it to them, and they said, oh gosh, like, don't be ridiculous. Like, of course you can be who you want to be at work. I was even called the Ice Maiden.
No way. Is that because you're holding like a scythe?
Well,
And a cape?
pick. Yeah.
I tell you what is interesting about just this dialogue there. It's like asking the question of why is colour so powerful, and the answer is lack of colour is so damaging.
Yeah.
And actually what's interesting is like, well, not necessarily, but you're the expert, so we'll pick into that, but also when we ask people, what's the most important thing about light, they say darkness. So it's interesting that actually the balance and of light and colour, or colour and lack of colour, but the original question of why is colour so impactful? Colour is so impactful that because you had so little of it for so long, you've got to now made a career out of colour. The rebounding effect of not having it. is-
But I think it is also to do with I think it is that colour is the vehicle for self-expression, and then colour is life, and the thing that I'm fascinated with is how colour influences behaviour. If this was a different colour, if this was a magenta pink, we would both be probably really on edge. Do you know what I mean? And it would be affecting us. If Well, it depends on what blue.
Yeah.
Because you could have a really dark blue, you could have a greyed out blue, you could have a turquoise blue.
Or an electric
blue.
Yeah.
There's all different. So it's not just the colour, it's whether it's a cold or a warm version of that colour, or whether it's saturated, which is highly stimulating, or whether it's very soothing. If this was all yellow, our nervous systems would just be completely going bonkers.
Yeah.
So colour is having an effect on us all the time, whether we realise it or not, and influencing our behaviour and influencing how our reactions, our responses. And that is what I find really fascinating. And then how we can use that for positive good and positive change.
Love it. So what is it about colour? Yeah, and that is it. Done. We can detach these mics and firmly drop them. So what is it about colour that is so powerful? So it is radiation. It is, I in my book, one of the things I try and frame is the power of, what is light. We've had this discussion before, what's more important, light or colour? They're mutually exclusive, really. They are the same thing. But when you look at the visible light spectrum, the colour red is right next to infrared, which warms our skin. And then you go orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, violet. Just beyond violet is ultraviolet, which synthesizes vitamin D. In extreme cases, can give you skin cancer. But the most sort of potent one for me is the fact that it will strip paint off paintings. So colour is radiation, and they're just frequencies. And the world really is made up of different frequencies. And it's energy.
Yeah, and
it's
we
energetic radiation.
And if you believe in energy and you believe in frequency, this is what we are. This is what it is. So it is so innately a part of us. And that's why when we see the sun and we have natural light, we get the full spectrum. And we need the full spectrum.
Well, there's new research about infrared and its effect on mitochondrial cells. And, in hospitals where there's just bright blue lighting, there's no texture, no, it's just artificial colours and stuff. Infrared and red, so the tail end of the red going into the infrared side of the electromagnetic spectrum, increases blood circulation, wound healing, and things like that. So, you think in patient recovery rooms we'd have dialed down the blue and up the red, and at least, but we don't do any of it.
No, don't get it.
So in how would you explain colour and the potency of it? In your own words, would you say it's sort of like it's radiation, or maybe you could tell us a bit about how the body reacts to colour through the skin or through the eyes, or is that so like hormonal or physical?
Right, yeah. So I mean, just really in a nutshell, do you want my cup of tea here? Is that we're taking in wavelengths of light through our eyes, and then it's going to the part of our it's going right through, and then it goes to the hypothalamus, and that is what governs our sleeping patterns, our hormones, our sexual drive, our metabolism. It just governs everything, and it's having effect on us psychologically, but also physiologically. So it's having an impact on us all of the time. That's why the colours that we surround ourselves with, and whether it's even like saying soothing or stimulating, or whether it's the cool version or the warm version, and then all of the colours, because we don't see, we're not just seeing this green in isolation, we're seeing all the colours that are around us, and that is what's having this compounding effect. And then so that's happening typically on a subconscious level, but then our own colour preferences, our own colour bias, our own what we make colour mean for ourselves. So if I had a really bad experience and it was this green, it would still be having an impact on me psychologically, but consciously I would be remembering this memory of this green. Like you might be remembering the blue of your school uniform.
Yeah.
It might be the right colour, but consciously you are aware of this memory, which will have a stronger effect on you. There's a lot of things in play, and then people have it's an impact on what a colour might mean for them on a cultural level. So there's a lot of things to consider. So
we did a webinar during lockdown, and we were talking about how you did I think it was a live webinar that you'd done where someone on air had suddenly been like, I've just realised why I'm scared of the colour red. And as a young girl, they got lost on Chinese New Year.
Oh, yes. That was, the podcast was Low Detox. Low Tox Life, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an Australian lady. And she grew up, if I remember rightly, she grew up in the Orient, in Asia. And she I think it was Chinese New Year, and she had she got lost, and when she looked, she couldn't find her parents, and when she looked up, all she could see were the red lanterns, because she said, I can't stand tomato red. And she said, I've got no idea why. And then all of a sudden the memory came to her, and she goes, oh my God. And then she said she looked up, and all she could see was tomato red, and then someone picked her up and put her on their shoulders, and then the parents saw her, but she said she didn't realize that was the connection why she could not stand this particular red like her whole adult life. So that was a massive like breakthrough for her.
So how do you manage?
That's a good memory.
It stuck with me so much. I mean, like, my brain is, with facts that really like impact me, they just lodge themselves, they weevil their way in. But I mean, How do you then, there's so many different facets, right? So you've got hemisphere, influences potential colour schemes, so northern versus southern, particularly with lighting in the southern hemisphere, they're like sort of cooler blue, white crystal, sort of snowy white light.
Well, it's just...
as opposed to warmer.
Yeah, I guess it's just, I think this is when they talk about, with your house or your building, which direction the light is coming from. Because in Australia, you want more of a northeast aspect to your house, where here you want a southwest, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's just to get the full daylight. So yeah, and then obviously the colours do render different and look different.
So what are the sort of sectors that you can split up cultural color preference? So gender, what sort of influences color choice then? Color preference. So you've got
well, not necessarily. Are you talking about pink and blue gender?
No, because I know in Scandinavia that's obviously the other way around as well. So I guess that's an interesting one. I guess that's sort of cultural.
That's cultural, yeah. So,
so what other things can affect sort of
cultural,
an individual's color choice? Is it gender? Is it culture? Memory?
Yeah. So the main three that I've come up with in my theory is that it's can be cultural, and cultural could be religion. It can be modern days marketing. It can be tribal. It can be to do with religion.
Nationality, I guess. Flag, red, white, and blue of America. They love that as a
royalty. Scheme. Yeah, so they're cultural. Cultural. I mean, yes, it could be your flag, but that's also that you associate with those colours. Then there is your personal colour preferences, and that's usually based on a memory or an event that has happened in your life. So something has happened to you, like it could be, school uniform. It could be that you were in an accident. So I know someone who absolutely will not design and use any red in any of her designs, even if it's the right colour for her client, because she was in a car accident with a red car.
No way.
And she just absolutely hates red and will have nothing to do with it. So it can be it can be because you've been on holidays, and then there's a memory of a favourite colour. I know someone whose favourite colour is orange because of EasyJet, because she's going on holidays.
That's when you've nailed your branding. Yeah. I'm painting my house in EasyJet orange because it reminds you of adventure.
Yeah, so that's personal, and then so it's cultural, personal, and then it's then obviously then what the psychological effect of the colour.
Do you think so? When you're looking at hotels, offices, they tend to be sort of brilliant white and very sort of muted colour tones. Do you think that's because there's so many variations of people's personal preference that they just do a sort of one size fits all, this is a generic beige scheme?
Well, just to say first of all that brilliant white is a man-made colour. It doesn't reflect any, because any natural white will always reflect a colour, and you can always see a colour in the colour, but it doesn't bounce light. So brilliant white is normally used for car parks or industrial, but if they use it for an interior, then it's just flat and dead and lifeless, and we can't calibrate it because we're calibrating.
So I've used this fact as well because I've sort of read your book and you say it, and it's academically referenced. Is it? I mean, some people have said, "What about snow?" Because that technically reflects.
But there's so many colours in snow.
Yeah, and
it also reflects daylight, like natural light.
Yeah.
And
so brilliant white doesn't actually reflect.
It doesn't reflect it. It doesn't bounce anything off. It just stays flat. And I think I think they developed it for that very fact that if you have a white wall and you put other colours around it, that white wall won't necessarily look white anymore. And I think, and I've done, God, if anybody knows the answer to this, please let me know. I have done so much investigation to paint companies, everyone, asking who invented this, and I think it was around the 1940s, and why, and no one can tell me the answer. So I've just come up with my own conclusions, which I am happy for someone who's listening to this to go, Karen, it's not that, it's this, because I really, really want to know. But I think it's so that because it doesn't reflect and it doesn't bounce anything off, and it just stays this pure, flat white. But we as human beings, we're constantly calibrating. We're constantly trying to make sense of everything around us. Do we feel safe? Do we feel comfortable? Do we feel secure? We're calibrating all of this all the time. And with what this flat white. It's just doing.
But it's stopping like energy, i.e. colour and light.
There's no energy.
Bouncing around.
Exactly, there's no energy.
It's like sort of, I guess, like a flowing stream and then a stagnant pond. That's kind of the difference of like health.
Yeah. It's flat. It's
living
dead.
nature of the space.
I say it's flat and it's dead. And so when people put that in a space, how are you expecting to get people to respond in the way? Like if you're in a hotel, if you're in a restaurant, you're not going to elicit the behaviours that you want from your ideal customers if you've got a colour like that. So going back to your example of the hotel, it's the way that I work. When I'm working with a client, it's the way that I teach, it's the way that I train, is that we always start with behaviours first. Because soon as we start with colour, we're in this rabbit warren we will never get out of, because then, I like that colour, I don't like that colour. It all becomes people's own bias. If you start with what are the behaviours you want to see in the space, because that is ultimately what you then measure against.
This is literally what I've done in my house. Exactly the same way.
So what are the behaviours?
Yeah.
And then knowing, though, what are the colours and the combination of colours, but also what colour family, because
that's where I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So I know the rough science behind the wavelengths, and I start with the emotion and the function of that space,
and then
apply things like depth.
Yeah,
and aging
so it's
and
the emotion, but it's the only way you've got the right emotion is to know what the behaviours you want to see in that space. And based off that, I mean, it's quite a big framework that I have.
Paint the change you want to see in the space. Don't be the change you want to be. Yeah.
And because when you've done that, and you know the right colours, so which blue, but which blue goes with which red, because they both need to be either cool, they both need to be warm. But are they saturated? Are they soothing? Stimulating or soothing? What's the proportion? What's the placement? Because once you've got all of that, and you see the people interacting in the space, then you can measure as to whether you're getting the right response. Because a hotel, do they want them to stay longer and linger? Do they want them to eat and drink more? Do they want them to get out and quick moving? How do they want, what are they looking to do? Because it has to also meet their business model. And then so it's not down to the personality of the designer or the design team or the architect, because they can only make it about them. It needs to be with the ideal customer or with the end client in mind. And that's how I remain objective, and how I don't make it about me, but I make it for what the end goal is.
Do you think the way that we create buildings at the moment has a massive disconnect in the process of looking at the end client? Do you think...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also with nature.
Yeah.
Because that is what we are. We are nature. We have this, we're hardwired to respond and react, but this hardwiring comes from nature. We have this symbiotic relationship with it, and we are definitely moving away from that. There's this, as much as with the biophilic design, which unfortunately has become a shorthand of green and brown.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of designers say to me, which breaks my heart, when they, I'm bored of biophilic design. And I went, what?
How? How can you be? But that literally just, for me, that sentence suggests solitary confinement is fine for me. Because biophilic design is literally a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
That's, what I mean? Or a view of a mountain.
So I asked them, and that's when I asked them,
nature.
what do you mean by that? And they said, well, I'm sick of just designing in green and brown. And I went,
some of my favourite biophilic buildings, probably because it's quite avant-garde and middle finger to the society of, to people saying that, is, well, not middle finger, but you know what I mean? This sort of like, look, this is how potent it is that... Yeah, exactly. It is. There's that amazing grain silo conversion building in Cape Town. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but not a single plant in there.
Right.
And it is stunning and calm and soothing, because you got awe-inspiring views. You got low drop ceilings, curved corridors, textured patinas on the sort of the concrete, and curved edges and dynamic light and fractal patterns and all these things which.
Yep.
I haven't named plants once.
Yes.
Because they're on it.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing
I know.
place.
We're having a soapbox moment, aren't we? So
Get
when
the popcorn.
Sorry?
Get the popcorn. Yeah.
So when you see all white environments, and I see this in magazines a lot, everything is white, and then they put a whole lot of plants in and they say this is biophilic design.
Yeah. On wooden shells.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like, no, it's not, because it's everything. It's everything. You can't.
It's a habitat. You're creating a habitat that soothes.
And you can't just plaster over.
Yeah.
You know, and then a step worse than that is, well, they're artificial plants. I'm like, you're missing the point completely. Ignore biophilic design, go and read
Sometimes
about
it's the best of a
biophilia.
bad situation having artificial. If there's no sunlight, I mean, you could try and get, I mean, you can match.
Yeah,
if
but
you
it's
put enough
living in
effort
plastic, aren't we? We're living in plastic. We're living in non-natural materials. Because there is this, you know, restorative effect kind of, you know, belief that, you know, if you've got pictures of nature, then we can relate to that, and then in our own memory we connect to it. So it's this, you know, it's like a theory called restorative effect. But if it's then all artificial, because it's all plastic, which is giving off toxins, which there is nothing that, of course, I'm probably speaking ideal, and there people probably be shouting at this podcast right now going, you know, how can you say this? But the ideal is to be as close to nature as possible, to have everything that's plastic. This is not, you know, this then affects our health, because then we're living in an environment that's full of toxicity. I can't even say that word.
Toxicity?
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
I got you.
You stuck the extra letters in.
I do.
Every now and then there's a word that I go, like, I can't say specific.
I got you on that. Specific.
Because I always almost
People say Pacific as
I know,
well.
the Pacific
yeah.
Ocean, that's me. Yeah, so, English.
So how would you? I mean, the tricky thing is as well, because I know, you know, I want people to go onto your course, and this is obviously you've taken years to craft this education and knowledge.
I'm still crafting it.
Crafting it, right? The education never stops.
Yeah, because my students keep on asking me better questions.
Yeah.
From when I started 10 years ago, I think because it was so new. I mean, when I first started almost 20 years ago, I did colour and design psychology. It was, what the F is that?
Yeah.
From the design community. And they also tried to shut me down.
Is it quite well widely understood as a profession now, do you think?
Now a lot of people are talking about it. Now it's more on the map. But it's taken a long time of me just basically talking nonstop ad nauseum about it.
Do you think it's because the science is backing up what many people felt? So people go, I've got an instinct for the fact that colour really can change our emotions, etc.
I think it's just because it was always there. I think it's and what is there a lot is more evidence design. It's more experiential data. Because we are not there is no, you do this is what happens, because we are not binary. We are all still Monty Python. We're still all individuals, right? We're all individuals. So it's not black and white. It's not, if you use this colour, this is the response, because we are complex. You know, I know that you spoke to somebody recently about neurodiversity. You know, we are all very, very complex beings, and there is no way that you can say, that I would ever say, you put these colours in and everyone is going to react the same. It's always about...
What's the bell curve, isn't it? It's like the 95%.
It's for the majority of people.
How do you approach design then? I mean, the reality is you've got different genders, different... creeds, colours, hemispheres.
That's why I've got a framework that's
versus...
really long so there's a framework that I work to, which is the ideal scenario. And then I look...
For the 95th percentile.
Yeah, and then I look... Well, no, the ideal scenario, and then all the outliers or all the... That's when I start looking at culture, personal association. I look at... cultural beliefs, I think I might just say that, where I look for diversity, where I look for low color vision, color contrast. There's all of these extra things plus a whole lot more that, because I can show my client this is the ideal, but now, because you need to manage your expectations and you need to give them the logic and the rationale and say, but we have all of these other factors that we need to consider, because what is unique to your workplace, unique to your home, unique to your whatever that built environment is. It could be a shop, shopping centre, whatever. And because these are now the unique other elements we need to consider, this is what I recommend. But they can see that and they can make an informed decision because they are fully aware, because I have explained everything to them. And whatever decision they make, they understand why they've made that decision. So we talked about the toilets here, where I walked in, and the lighting is, everything's black. The
There's
lighting,
one single light,
but it's frosted, or it's so low that anybody with any color deficiency, the color deficiency is another one.
Or age as well, right?
Age,
you see 10% of the light age 80 that you do
so
at the age of 10.
I don't know how somebody, and this is a public place, right? It's a publicly accessible place. Because it's a guideline, it's not enforced, it's not a rule. So someone designed this because it looked like edgy and it was cool. But is it usable? And they would have made a decision.
Again, this is the whole thing about form over function. So I think what happens is, we've kind of, I've mentioned it a couple of times on this podcast, but a book by Jahani Palasma, it's called The Eyes of the Skin, and it draws this parallel between, as we've evolved with our technology, we've stopped using our senses because we're not drawing our buildings, which means we're using fewer senses. We're not hearing the pen on paper, we're not smelling it, we're not feeling it,
and we're not
vibrate.
having that neuro connection.
Exactly, the haptic connection to it, the kinesthetic or whatever.
As much as possible to keep that.
To keep it going, it's a muscle, right? But that you can see a direct correlation with the reduction of sensory design in our buildings as well. And it's as we CAD and auto sketch more, we remove all our other senses, and you can see that in our buildings. So I feel like form over function is definitely, and that's the thing for biophilic design for me, is that balance between bringing function back into form, because you can do everything.
It's also the emotion, because I see function and form being quite masculine, and I see the emotion being feminine. And we have had masculine design for decades, pretty much after World War II, when they thought anything that was decorative or anything that was colour was superfluous. I hope I said that word right.
Nailed it.
To requirements, because they had to get housing up, they had to get people housed. So it was just these brutalist boxes. Yeah. And getting people in there.
Build it high, build it fast.
Yeah, because that was. Yeah, but anything that was decorative...
It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's just like all the other stuff goes out.
Exactly, but it's gone out for too long, and it's still out. So my whole thing is we need to bring this back. We need to get this balance, the yin-yang. I don't know if it's the right use of that, but, we need to get this balance of masculine, feminine back. And design has been too masculine for too long. And that's not... I'm not male bashing at all.
No,
that's not that at all. It's just... We need to bring these two back into alignment.
I completely agree, and I think that the funny thing is that to go back to school uniform, where it's literally you will be a wallflower, you will be printed into a lawyer or a doctor. We were talking to Frankie Ball about neurodivergency.
We're homogenous worker bees.
Exactly.
That's what, and you don't have an idea, you don't have an opinion. And
there's the most amazing TED talk. I imagine this record has been beaten now, but at the time I think he was 12, and he was the youngest ever TED talker.
Oh, wow.
And he was an incredible guy. He basically went to school, was heavily dyslexic, ADHD. The teacher said, this kid is not going to go anywhere. He hasn't got the skill set, hasn't got the concentration. His mum obviously knew him better than anyone else. Went, now I'm going to take him out of school, I'm going to homeschool him. And
he thrived, right?
By age 12, he spoke 3 languages. He had a junior, basically the equivalent of like an engineering degree. Yeah. Because he said, I want to build a treehouse. And she went, if you want to build a treehouse, how badly? And he's like, so badly. And he just devoured books and basically qualified as an engineer. And then it's like, I would love to go to France. Cool, we can do that. but only if you speak French. Right, I'll learn French. And this guy ended up speaking in French on stage, and it's just,
brilliant.
Talking to Frankie, there's this element, she was saying yesterday, she could look at this mixer here and flip it around in her head, take it apart, know all the components and put it back together again, whilst I'd still be trying to find the on button. But then she's heavily neurodivergent, and she was told at school you can't do X. So it's interesting sort of framing people in ways that I think is sort of, pigeonholing them.
And when you get older, they want everyone to be unique. They want you to be creative. They want you to do all the things that they just
and we champion people that
we support them, yet.
But we ostracise those that are as well. It's such
we've
it's
tried
safer to not put your head above the parapet.
We've bashed them out of it, or all through school, trying to
whack-a-mole.
Yeah, push it down, but then those that kind of escaped that and got through it, and still could find what they loved. I mean, it took me years to find, because I was,
suppressed.
Suppressed.
Yeah.
Even though I was still very
much yourself.
Very outspoken, always in trouble.
Colourful.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the funny thing as well, is because I was suddenly like, I'm going to practice what I preach here. I work in light and colour, and, I'm all about nature and natural finishes and trying to sort of show people the effects. What was interesting is I started wearing this bright blue jumper, this bright orange jacket, and I'd go around and I'd meet my friends at the pub and they'd be like, oh, all right, mate. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, it's called fashion. And I'm like, it's not, it's just this, like, have a bit of va-va-voom here. Like, it's white and black and green, and it's quite clearly the colour I'm wearing today. But, I've got some orange socks on.
And it's not just for everyone, because I think there's also colours sort of got a bit of bad name, that people think that to be considered colourful you have to wear really bright colours. Like we don't have to walk around.
Peacocking, it can be a bit
and we
intimidation
don't.
Gauge.
And I remember I interviewed probably the world's best known textile designer, Kay Fassett, and he said, it's not about being like, it's not using colour like Disneyland on acid.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a fantastic quote. It's not that we have to look like a kaleidoscope, or it's not about this maximalism, wearing every single colour in every single pattern, because that's not healthy as either, because that's like having your adrenals, your emotions
dialed up to the nines,
full blast, whereas wearing something that just white or black or grey is like turning it almost all the way down. But there are people that have a very soft nature, that are very gentle, and their colours are gentle. You would never, I would never say to them, "Oh, you've got to wear bright colours because because that is their." That's
out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
that's actually not.
Well, it's out of their nature. It's out of who they are. The same with, my colours are pretty much the colours that come in a true springtime. But if you asked me to wear a magenta pink, or you asked me to wear, a colour that wasn't in alignment with me, oh God,
be aware of it.
Well,
I hope aware of it.
It's hard and it's cold, and I can't even be around that colour. It just doesn't resonate with me. So it's not about wearing bright colours for bright colour's sake to say I'm colourful. It's wearing what resonates with you and your personality and who you are, because you as in we are all unique. So the colours that you wear would not be the same that what I would wear, because we're different.
Different people, yeah.
Yeah.
What about, you mentioned Disney in terms of colourful nature. We just did we had a project. We were asked to match the exact paint colour of Disney green or Disney blue.
Yeah, right.
Which is sort of a teal.
Match it in what? Colour. In light, or
so we can colour our fittings in any colour kind of thing. So they came to us and were like,
powder coated them. Yeah.
They're like, can you match that exact colour? And we're like, yeah, we can, and we did it. And we were like, I started reading into it, and it's a colour which children, all their service areas are painted in Disney green, which is the electrical service boxes, the junction boxes, the bins. So they're basically only seeing Mickey and Minnie Mouse.
Right.
So all the colours and dazzles and everything. Yeah. So the lights are invisible. So bringing it back to, I guess, colour and how to use it, you said that understanding the emotional response that each individual needs is really important. You have a formula or a process which can help manage larger spaces, or even smaller ones, I imagine, to a bit more of a sort of optimal fashion. How would you advise people, if they're on their own or doing their own projects and don't have the wisdom of yourself, could I don't know, do your work for you really, and support your wider vision of trying to put the colour back in the world and get people to sort of connect with the emotional benefits that colour can offer.
Yeah, I would say without any training and with that, for them to connect, the first thing is to connect to who they are. Don't follow trends. Don't follow what your neighbour has. Don't follow what's going on. Really create an environment that supports you, an environment that gives you what you need. Some people do need very restful or want restful, calming environments because, you know, maybe the world's too overwhelming for them. Maybe it's too hectic. Maybe there's too much going on. Maybe they've got a really high pressure job and they might want a home that soothes them and supports them. That might not always be, but that might be where they start. But someone might want a place that gives them energy, and so they might want a place where the colours are a little bit more stimulating. The idea, though, is to really pick something that is for you and pick colours, design styles, choices that suit you and who you are and what you need. And how you can future grow, you know, into the space and how the space can adapt and grow with you. And be okay with people coming in and going, oh, I wouldn't have that sofa. Or, oh, I wouldn't. Oh, why did you paint it those colours? This is where the inner confidence and the inner strength and the inner self-expression, it's like, that's okay. You don't have to like it because you don't live here. You know? And also know that they aren't criticising you and your personality, who you are. All they are saying is that it's not right for them. And of course it's not, because they don't live there. And that's okay. But that's all comes back to this self-expression and about us having this inner knowing, this inner confidence to know that our home is to nurture and support us. It's not a show home. It's not an Instagram home. There was someone on Instagram that was really, really famous. I can't remember who she is. And she had hundreds of thousands of followers. And her house was all shades of grey.
50.
Shades. Well, I should say shades.
Hues of grey.
Tint tones and shades of grey. And all of her followers, so many of her followers, did it to their home. Then she changed. Years later, she started introducing beiges, and her whole house was changing to all different beiges. Her followers went nuts because they had invested all of their, trust and all of their identity and who they were off her. Because if I have a house like hers, whatever she's feeling, whatever she's got, is going to rub off on me, and I'm living vicariously through it.
That is success. I have a part of it.
Yeah. And then when she changed, they didn't know what to do.
Really?
But that is
Mad.
But it's a classic example of when you, like, that's the point where you go, you know what? Do what you love. Because she's doing what she loves. I don't know if she is, but I would assume she's not telling you to do what she's doing. You're doing that because we idolize, if we do what our celebrities or who we idolize have, then we have this there's a term for it, I can't remember, we have this closer connection. We're in their orbit.
Tribe,
you know?
really, isn't it? Yeah.
In their tribe. So why not do what you want to do and do what really works for you? Because if the greys were really you, and she changed to beige, it wouldn't worry you. Yeah. You wouldn't. You
haven't tapped into your own identity, so you're finding solace and comfort in the fact that you may be able to lean on her.
Yeah. Which is what we do, which is what trends on a whole, I mean, trends is a whole massive topic. There's a lot of, facets to it. But on the whole, it is to get us excited about something new, and for us to buy in, because if we follow that trend and we've got that trend, we are now a part of that group that we don't even know. We don't even know who's in the group, but we're a part of a group.
Yeah.
And if we don't use it, or there's a new trend colour or a new trend, we are all of a sudden dated.
Well, do you think that...
And we date, and so therefore, if you feel dated, and then you've got to keep on buying something new, that means it was never you in the first place.
Yeah. Do you think, because what I find interesting is there's two parts really. If you're looking like culturally in the UK, we're quite stiff, right? It's the whole, the outfits that we used to wear in the 1800s is very,
I know, I still don't quite fit in
like,
here.
Oh, they showed an ankle. Like, do you know what I mean? We're quite...
Well, that was the showing the ankle back then was the, like...
That's like... Yeah,
that was.
There's a couple of words we can't say, but it's one of those things where, like, so culturally in the UK, it's very this is us, we have to be proper. Whereas if you look at somewhere like Portugal or the Caribbean, it's a lot more colourful. Spain.
Have you seen in Lisbon all the train stations?
No.
So all the tubes, well, the underground, all the stops. If you go to all of them, they're all beautifully tiled. And they've all got a theme and all got colours.
Love that.
And so I was just basically popping out in most of the train stations just to take pictures of all the artwork. Because they're tile, their cities wall-to-wall tiles and all colourful and just beautiful.
But that then means that there's more colour within the culture, which means that people would be more confident in using it, or do you still think they'd then be aligned with the colours that city has defined, and not necessarily... Because I know it would influence you.
What's interesting, because I've not been inside Portuguese homes, but I've been, just looking on the outside. But I've had a few design students from Spain, and they will all say to me, the Spanish love colour, all on the outside of the buildings, beautiful colours, but inside they just want white.
Well, this happened. So we did a webinar with Marianne Shillingford, creative director of Julia. So I know you know.
She's a good friend.
I bet. And she was saying that during lockdown, because everyone was stuck indoors, they changed their interiors to what it was, sort of whites and beiges and muted tones to shut off the loud colours and movement of the city that would tire them out. When they weren't allowed access outside and they were stuck indoors, they needed that visual stimulation they were lacking from parks and buses and adverts.
Yeah.
So suddenly they started buying loads of natural colours, and the colour schemes within interior spaces in London.
All colours are natural. Massive. So when you say natural colours,
except
just to say
white.
that. Except brilliant white. And there's
absolute black.
And there's the Vanguard. Is it Vanguard black? And then there's this really bright pink. And then there is recently a blue, this really bright neon blue.
I saw that, with I think we did a similar timing. I think you did the post and literally crossed LinkedIn things.
Yeah, there was that.
People can see it through laser eye surgery.
Oh, no, that's something completely different. Yeah. But, I did quite a bit of research around what was happening in lockdown, and I've done webinars on it, and I've done thought pieces on it. So, in a nutshell, when we have all the outside stimulation... What a lot of people would, so you go out to the pub, you've got your work, you've got the theatre, you've got, everything that's going on outside. And because for some people that was so stimulating, what they did, they would come home to a white or a grey home predominantly, and then they were just switching off the emotions. So they were doing this subconsciously, probably without even realising it, that they were overstimulated, and then what they were doing is they were really understimulated. They were going from two extremes.
So would it have been better to just have mild stimulation as opposed to extreme and then off?
Yeah. So going from one extreme to the other is not good, right? Because your body is going here, you know what I mean? So it's not good for your system. And then they would be in, and when people say, grey is calming or white is calming, this is the danger, because it's not calming, it's draining. It will get to a point where you think it's calming you, because what it's doing, your energy's going down, but then it gets to a point where it starts draining you. So they're in their home and they are drained, which normally then when they wake up, people reach for a double espresso, they reach for something to try and stimulate themselves again. Then they go out into the world, which is overstimulated, right? So they have this, and they're doing this every single day. Come lockdown, they're getting no outside stimulation. They're in their home and there is no stimulation. So what they are reaching for, it's not natural colours, because all colours in nature are natural, which, there's millions, they were going for the saturated colours because they were trying to reproduce that stimulation they had outside through the energy and the stimulation of the colour. And they were writing to me and telling me that this is what they were doing. And I was asking them, well, how do you feel? How do you respond? What are you doing? And they're saying that, oh yeah, they've got a lot more energy now and they feel a lot more alive. But now they were constantly in this overstimulating space. And I said to them, the interesting thing is going to be is when we can, when all the lockdown is finished and life goes back to whatever that is, what you will now be doing with your home. And I wish I had taken down their details because it was through Instagram DMs, chat. And I should have taken their details because now I want to know, have they gone
slide back into their DMs? You could probably...
Well, I have to find, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I didn't take their names.
You can. Maybe we'll have a look after this because what you can, I think, I mean, I'm by no means an expert, but I think you can type in a couple of keywords.
Oh.
And then it'll put it out. So we'll give it a go.
We'll give it a go. But yeah, I want to know now, did you go back or have you dialed back a bit? Because minimalism, this whole minimalism, white, pared down, is an extreme. Then what have we got now? Maximalism. Multi-patterned, multicoloured, all bright. This is the other extreme. We've just swung from one to the other. Both of them aren't healthy and both of them aren't sustainable and both of them isn't a natural... It's not a natural state to live in.
This is to the T exactly what's happened in my... So I've got a flat in East London and... We were sort of like my wife's very colourful, and she was like, right, we're going to colour. We had 6 kitchen cabinets, and they're all a different colour, and I loved it. It was a real little expression of her, and I was like, this is really fun and lovely. And then so we've been married for 2 years now, and I think maybe there was an element of we redid that room, we got Savannah's painter, and we've done a kind of cappuccino brown, and I just sort of thought, I was like, you know what, you're really
cappuccino brown, isn't that just another word for beige?
Yeah, exactly. So now I've gone from really colourful,
is it a pinky, like a pinky?
Yeah, so I've got these really lovely dim to warm lights which go blue, and then you dim it down, you get the oranges. So the thing, I saw the colour and I was like, not a fan, to be honest, but I guess when I dim it down, the orange will come out. And I looked at it, and the sort of grey undertone of it was so... It hasn't washed it out, that warmth that I was expecting. And I think deep down I knew it, but it was just when we were deciding on the colours and stuff, it was my fault. I basically was like... it was a crazy week, and I was like, yeah, that's probably fine, go for it. Yeah, boom. And then I came back, and to be honest, I was a little bit... That whole room has gone from... We had a feature wall, which was a lovely dark olive green. And then we had all these colours on the other side, and we'd be sat down watching TV or having friends over, and it just felt like a little bit of Lisbon, like a little bit of, energetic expression in the room. And suddenly it's all gone very... it's like the sort of soul of the paint has just stepped back 3-4 notches. And I sit in that room now, and we're sort of slowly putting the stuff back on the shelves, adding a bit of colour. But I sit in that room as the main place where, I'll do my work, or, in the evening we'll have sort of supper and then sit on the sofa and watch an episode or something, or read a book. I say read a book, it's mainly watching TV, but sounds cultured at least. But it's got to a stage now with that room, when I'm sat there for 2-3 hours, I end up still craving some sort of energetic injection. I feel it viscerally.
There's something's missing.
Yeah, but then my study is this dark blue, and I painted it that because I'm rushing around. I've got ADHD like most of us do, and I'm running around a mad city and working.
Well, that's focus concentration. Helps focus concentration with dark blue.
Exactly.
But if you have too much, then it can become very cold and sterile as well.
Well, I've got a lime wash dark blue, so I've added sort of life into the sort of grains and depth of the actual paint. But then I've got sort of gold pops of colour in there, and then a few reds just to sort of dial it up and give me a little bit. So I sort of sat with myself, and I've got leather chairs, and I was like, right, I want grounding, I want a little bit of spice, and so that was my colour scheme. But now if I'm working in there all day, I don't feel like necessarily... I think it's too soothing now.
Well, it's probably the proportion of blue.
Yeah.
Quite often when people put a pop of colour in, it's because the proportion is wrong.
Yeah.
Because if we overdo something, we need then something else to try and counteract it. And normally it's something that's very stimulating, which you only need a small amount of to try and counteract what you've got a lot of.
Is that not a sort of general interior design process though? It's like choose a colour. No.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, not at all. So how what's the general interior design process for me? Because I was thinking, obviously this is me. I'm on a wacky adventure at the moment, right? And I was like, right, okay, well I've read Karen's book. I've done a little bit of research myself. I've got looked under the hood. Let's see if I can apply it.
But that's the wonderful thing. You're experimenting and you're feeling it and you're consciously aware. And so now it's just for you for adjusting it, just to make those adjustments. But sorry, normal interior design.
Normal interior design. I was just trying to work out whether there are people outside for the product. I think we're okay.
We can just wave at them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think, for normal interior design, I think I was always under the impression when I was doing the process of sort of booking it, of doing it was, I'm just trying to work out, sorry. Are you coming in? Are you coming in? Are we late? Oh, do we need to finish up? Yeah, okay. Right, okay.
Leave this all on.
Yes. We may have to do just a part 2 on this because there's just so much to talk about. And one thing that I was going to kind of say, I said earlier there are 2 parts to this, and then we were on a really lovely tangent, which is what I love about podcasts and being able to have the fluid chat. But the other part was that, I was talking about how old England is just black and white, and everything is just, the individuality is sucked away from us because to be proper you must have a black and white and a bone handkerchief, whatever, in your top pocket.
Oh yeah.
Do you think so? With the rise of the millennials, you've seen way more wacky baby names.
Yeah.
You've got all these people crying out to be individuals, and now we're all about a billion individuals. Do you think that people are getting a little bit more avant-garde with their colour choices, or do you think it's still people aligning with influencers who have a grey and they go, yes, that's my tribe, and then it changes and they go, oh no, where's my tribe now? I don't know who I am. Do you think that we're getting a bit better?
I think that there's a mix of everything. There's people, because personalisation is a massive trend. There's people that just want to fit in and belong. There's others that want to follow. And I think people are just picking whatever is their lane and doing. But ideally what I would love is that people become more authentically them and are more about their own self-expression and have the confidence to be who they are and not feel that who they really are is wrong and that they can't be it. And then this is all back down to what we did to survive, and knowing those strategies helped us as children, but they no longer serve us, and that they've done their job, and we can now have the confidence to express who we are and not worry what other people think. And that takes courage. It does take courage. It takes determination, and it takes an inner strength. But if you just do it bit by bit by bit by bit,
and I think maybe championing it as well, just sort of spreading away. I mean, I guess, sort of to...
And that's what my whole Instagram account is all about, is about self-expression.
Where can they find you? What's your Instagram handle?
Karen_Haller_colour.
Nice.
So
that's what it says on the tin.
Yeah. So that's all about just people reconnecting back to their own love of colour and getting curious and finding colour fascinating and exciting, and then what it means to them.
Well, I think it's a really... I mean, I've got so many more questions, but I know that we've got other places to be and things to do. So, I mean, honestly, thank you. I've absolutely loved this chat. It's been mega... Yeah, likewise. Yeah. And look, I would love to do a part 2 because we're about halfway through the list of questions that I had.
Yeah. It's like our phone calls,
which is a good sign.
Isn't it? When we ring up for one thing and then we're on the call
it's
for
an
half
hour and I look at my clock and I'm like, okay, I've got to go. But Karen, look, honestly, thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
If you're up for a session 2, let's lock it in.
Yeah. Part 2 for sure.
Awesome.
Right, thank you.
Nice.